So, you got an itch, a supercar itch, but you don't have much dinero. I can relate. And yet, you gotta have a supercar. Then, guess what? You've come to the right place. Because in this video, I'm gonna go through some of the best supercars that will thank your bank account. Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting that. And if you're new here, my name's Brad Danger. Hit that subscribe and turn on the notification bell because we're your guide to the most ideal deals on the market today. So, ladies and gents, start your engines. Let's go. Okay, so if an Italian V8 is a must, and you need it to be lined in leather, and on top of that have drop-dead gorgeous good looks, then let me introduce you to the first affordable supercar, the Maserati Gran Turismo. Brand new, these things started at $115,000. Youch! So while yes, it is expensive, it's still way cheaper than a Ferrari. And let me let you in on a little secret. It basically is a Ferrari. Not only was Ferrari and Maserati owned by Fiat at the time, but the engine in the Gran Turismo was the Ferrari F136, and that power plant was in a lot of other supercars. Let me give you a couple examples, like the F430 Scuderia, which that thing shifts so hard they call it the Scud Thud, and the Italian supermodel, the 458 Italia. And if that's not enough to get your engine revving, well then the totally badass Alfa Romeo 8C. And the one thing all these cars have in common is the engine, but what they don't have in common with the Maserati is that their MSRP started at least double. Yeah, double. So essentially the Mazda GT is like a 2-for-1 or 50% off. And on top of it, the GT is definitely more luxurious than any of those cars. Lined in leather that rivals the best of the best. So not only does it look good inside, but it means business. You're gonna go 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds and sound insanely good doing it. So you must be wondering, why haven't people just flocked to go buy these things left and right? Well, it's Italian and it's a supercar. So reliability is about as questionable as your dating life. No, I was just kidding, my dating life. See, most people wouldn't put tens of thousands of miles on their Ferrari because your wallet would be crying. And the 4.2 liter and the 4.7 liter V8, although they sound incredible, have quite a few problems. And the biggest one is that they weren't offered with a manual transmission, which is a shame. Luckily, you won't be shelling out money like you would for a Ferrari for one of these, because for under 25K, you can have yourself a Ferrari-powered leather-lined Italian chariot. So, you tell me, is the juice worth the squeeze? And while you're thinking about it, we just dropped a new shirt. Yes, a hand-drawn ideal shirt, completely custom for you. Go snag yours before we run out. And I can see in your eyes that the Gran Turismo might be a little too posh for your liking, and that's okay. And then you in the back, I can see that you definitely need a manual transmission, but I think that we can all agree that there's no replacement for displacement. And if you gotta have a V8, you gotta go American with the Chevy Corvette, baby. Okay. I know that some of you are already commenting, Brad, that's not a supercar. And well, you're sorta right. Because my question to you is, why not? A standard C6 Vet lapped the ring over 20 seconds faster than the Ferrari 355. And that's a supercar. And what about the C606, you ask? Woohoo! I'm glad you did, because it lapped the ring in 7 minutes, 22.68 seconds. How fast is that, you ask? Well, real quick. Faster than this car, the Maserati MC12, which is one of the most track-focused supercars ever built. And this car, the 997.2 GT2 RS. And even this car, an SLS AMG Black Series. And if I still haven't convinced you, this car, the brand new Ferrari 812 Superfast. So yes, it doesn't have the doors that go up, but neither did the Ferraris. And maybe it doesn't look like the most super-de-duper car, but it definitely has supercar performance. Although it's definitely not exotic, because everybody and their mom has one. But it is an amazing car with extremely good reliability. But you've been forewarned. These things are known as the midlife crisis mobile. But if you can get over that, you could be driving around in a bald eagle tire spinning machine. And while the standard C6 is a great vehicle and you can snag one for under 20 grand, the ideal buy of the century right now is the C606. You're looking at $550,000 109.5 horsepower with a smooth shifting 6-speed manual that will rarely, if ever, leave you in anybody else's rear view mirror. And guess what? The secret's out. You can snag these for a hair over 25K. And I bet if you were to use the Ideal Car strategies, you could get it for under 25. And if you want to learn from me the proper way to buy a car, go check out the Ideal Car strategies. Because if the C606 isn't awesome, I don't know what is. Although I know our subscribers are a mixed bag. And if you don't care about beating new Ferraris at the track, or if American supercars just really aren't your thing, what about a Japanese supercar? Sounds fun. And I bet you're automatically thinking about the GTR, which is what I was thinking about. But that's not the next car on this list. This next one is a Japanese icon. It's a car that's pretty ideal. What car, you ask? The Acura NSX. Pull up to a Cars and Coffee in an NSX and expect a crowd. Not only does the NSX please supercar fans, but JDM ones too. The downfall of the NSX is the underpowered, underwhelming 3-liter V6, pumping out a rowdy 270 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque, but that still means a Ford F-150 would beat the NSX to 60 miles per hour. But hey, at least it's reliable, and that V6 was basically made for boost. That's right, it's not uncommon to see NSXs with some snails under the hood, or the rear hatch, or whatever it's called. Throw a supercharger or a couple turb skis, and you're gonna be pumping up the power, baby. And I bet you're wondering, how much power? Well, the sky is pretty much the limit. Some people have pushed these things to over 1,000 horsepower. So yes, these things handle boost very well. And with all that power, you're gonna need something that can handle it, and just handle. And well, the NSX was made for handling. This thing handles like it's on rails. And something I found quite interesting is that if you get one with a manual transmission, not only is your red line increased from 7,500 to 8,000 RPM, but you actually get an extra 18 horsepower for pretty much free. And the fact that you can get these for under $50,000, and yet it looks like a car that's priced double, if not triple that, is an absolute bargain. And I predict that the prices are gonna continue to go up from there. So is it now time for me to put an Ideal NSX in the garage? Well, I'd have to replace the car that is in my garage. That's the next car on this list, the 996 911. Deep in its roots is decades of Porsche pedigree. And while it's not regarded as the prettiest Porsche ever made, it always tends to find a way into my garage. Is it ugly? No way. But the headlights do remind me of my breakfast. Fried eggs. But that's another story for another day. And yes, we can rag on the looks all we want, but remember, it's a Porsche 911. And at the end of the day, it's gonna perform like a Porsche 911. It's gonna make the same noises, it's gonna get the same attention. And all that for a fraction of what other 911 generations cost. Today, you can pick up a manual 996 911 with under 100,000 miles for roughly $15,000. Just make sure that you get a pre-purchase inspection and the IMS issue has been sorted out, or you're gonna be in a world of hurt. And again, these prices I doubt are gonna go any lower. So if you're smart, you'd buy one today and hold on to it and drive it for a few years. But you know who else is smart?
The name's Bond. James Bond.
And you know what James Bond drives? An Aston Martin. And there's not one, but two that make this list. The DB9 and the V8 Vantage. Now, you can't go wrong with either. And a lot of you guys are classy individuals with great taste. That's why we get along. And adding an Aston to your arsenal only proves it even more. Now, the DB9 is a great value, and the V8 Vantage is also a great value and a beautiful car as well. But if you had to pick one based off of reliability, V8 Vantage all the way. And many people call these the British Mustang, except they're not allergic to crowds, or attracted to them, I should say. And come to think of it, it's just a better car than the DB9, the V8 Vantage that is. But the DB9 is definitely the more bougie of the two, and you can snag one for under $30,000. But lucky for you, you can also get a V8 Vantage for the same price. For a little under 34, and probably under 30 if you use the Ideal Car strategies, you can get this 07 Aston Martin Vantage with a 6-speed manual. And the manual is something you can't get with the DB9 unless you check the glove box. So if your name's Bond and you gotta just pick one of the two, which one would you get? And I think one thing that we could all tell is that Astons are for classy individuals. And what if you're kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum? Well, you go buy a Viper, of course. Somehow, some way, someone at Dodge decided to build a cheap supercar. And cheap didn't mean safe. So if you're on the fast track to hell, or torque is your middle name, not danger, you may be qualified to buy one of these. And honestly, I'm surprised there's not a waiver that you have to sign before you drive one, because there's absolutely zero nannies. Zero ABS, zero traction control, and heck, these first gens had zero door handles. All you got was a front engine V10 flame-spitting super-duper car. And all that power was put through a manual transmission that went straight to the rear wheels, trying to kill you over and over and over again. And if you survive the drive, you'll be hooked on that venomous exhaust note. Because that big bad motor was built in collaboration with Lamborghini. And we all know the saying, when the top goes down, the price goes up. And with the drop top 3rd gen, you'd be expecting a 6-figure price tag. Thankfully, that is not the case. Because new, they started at only $80,000, which pound for pound is one of the best sports car bargains, period. And today, you can pick them up for right around 30 grand. And while that does sound ideal, unfortunately, the Viper might not be the most practical or the most user-friendly. And if you want a true blue everyday supercar, there's really one answer. The Audi R8 molds the technology from Audi and the performance from Lamborghini. It's a match made in heaven, you'd say. And in a lot of ways, the R8 is basically the Lamborghini Gallardo. Some may call it confused, I call it awesome. It's essentially a Lambo for half the price. So what's not to like? Honestly, I couldn't tell ya. If you want to get big power, you gotta go with the V10 that's yanked straight out of the Gallardo. Or you could get the V8, which was shared with the Audi RS4, which is also an ideal car, but that's for another day. Either engine option, you can't lose. And there were 2 different transmission choices. The R-Tronic automatic that had a little bit of a learning curve, but it made it a great daily driver option, or you could get it with a manual 6-speed transmission. So considering that it's Audi's halo car and it's pretty much a Lambo, you'd think that these things would be uber expensive. But guess what? Using some of the strategies, I found this one for under $50,000. And there's no doubt in my mind or yours that is a supercar. And while that still is a huge wad of cash, it's still half of what a comparable Gallardo would be. And so the R8 is a proven everyday supercar. But there's those guys over at Jaguar that think that they've also created a great everyday supercar. Meet the F-Type. You could get these things with pretty much any flavor power plant under the sun. They came with turbo 4s, with V6s, to the big badass V8s. So while not all models are considered supercars, the average person won't be able to tell the difference. And the nice thing is, all F-Type models can be heard from a block away. And the pops and crackles come standard. And while this is cool, it's pretty much the F-Type's party trick. Yeah, the interior is nothing to sneeze at, and you can get these in either a convertible or a coupe. So there's a lot of options to choose from. But other than that, this car is pretty vanilla, at least when you compare it to some of the other cars on this list. And I think these are quite the bargain right now. Check out this supercharged V6 with just 22,000 miles on it for less than 40 grand. So while the F-Type aims to be posh and practical, the Lotus Elise is pretty much the complete opposite of that. But supercar? Hell yeah! The Lotus Elise is essentially the Miata of supercars. So is it always the answer? Not if you want to win any straight line races. But if you want to dominate at the track, the Elise is great. It's got a super low curb weight, so it carries momentum through the curves like no other. But you're probably wondering why this thing isn't a straight line dominator. Well, it's fitted with a 190 horsepower 1.8 liter Toyota engine out of this car, the Toyota Matrix. Why, Lotus? Why? Why couldn't they have stuffed a big ol' V8 or a turbo something in there? Well, that's because if they weren't underpowered from the factory, people wouldn't want to mod them. And there's been one specifically that's gone 265 miles per hour. Well, kinda. The Hennessy Venom GT, which is based on the Lotus platform, was stretched and strapped with a 7-liter V8. And that makes it one of the fastest cars of all time. But it will also set you back $1.25 million. So I think it's safe to say that it's pretty much out of the budget for you and me. But if it's not out of the budget for you, go buy one and hit me up in the DMs at Ideal Media Official on Instagram, which you should be following, by the way. And let's go to 265 miles an hour and back. And if you're trying to get a Venom GT on a budget, well, the Lotus Elise isn't a bad second place prize, and you can snag them for under $30,000 all day long. So as far as my ideal cheap supercar, well, that would be a tough choice because I've always wanted an NSX. I have the 996 911, but the one that I would pick pound for pound is the best performance deal out there, period, the C606. 505 horsepower, an extremely capable chassis, and I don't think it looks half not bad. Plus, believe it or not, having had a lot of seat time behind one, they kind of feel like just a bigger Miata. They're playful, they're fun, and they sound badass. So, what would be your pick? Let me know if you agree with me or there's something that we missed on this list in the comments below. Also, if you're new here, my name's Brad Danger. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. You enjoyed the vid, hit the like button. If you disliked it, really let us know. Don't just dislike it once, hit that dislike button twice. Also, check out some of our other Ideal content. Go check us out on Facebook at Ideal Media Official, Instagram at Ideal Media Official, and you guys keep living the ideal lifestyle.